Hello, this is Captain. In this Stormworks Basics tutorial series, what I'm going to be doing is building some hulls, and then I'm going to release them to the workshop, and you can use them as you like. I just ask that you credit me in the description if you do release to the workshop, but they're going to be free to use. And the whole point of this is consistently see a lot of people, especially new players, who are struggling building hulls. And so this way I'll kind of give a little bit of a tutorial of how I built each hull, and then you'll be able to just use it. If you don't want to build it yourself, you can just build on top of what I've done. So let's go ahead and get started. Right, so for the first hull here, we're going to be in the beginner base. When we start building a hull, one of the things we can use that is very helpful is we can use some realistic statistics to help us get going. And so one of the things we have IRL is what's known as a length to beam ratio. So length would be how long the ship is. Beam is how wide. And so if you get a good length to beam ratio, the ship works pretty well. So between about a 2 and a 4. So the length of the ship should be between 2 and 4 times what the width of the ship is. So using that, it tends to get us a pretty good result in here. So here's the beginner base, and the beginner base is pretty small to start with. So let's go ahead and build let's go ahead with like a 10-meter ship here. So we'll go 10 meters. And that will be the basis of our ship. And so when I start building, what I like to do is I lay out the deck, and what I mean by that is the part that you're going to be stepping on. And that allows me to get the shape of it first, and then I go back and we'll build in the hull from there. And so this allows you to do some shaping. And so if we have a 10-meter long deck, it should be between 2 and 4 meters wide. In Stormworks, it is best to err on the side of wider. That's going to give you more stability. Now, there are a bunch of tricks and more advanced things you can do for stability. I'll put out some stability tutorials or some updated ones for shipping. But you tend to want to make things a little bit wider in Stormworks. The buoyancy is lower than it is IRL, so by adding a little bit of width, you're able to add more buoyancy. You can go ahead and watch my buoyancy tutorials for some tips on that. So right now, the width is 4¼ meters. So let's actually just cut these down by 1, and that's 375. So our length to beam ratio is a 375. Then I make a square. And so now I'm going to build the deck of the ship. Some things to understand in Stormworks. As you use the longer wedges, the 1x2 wedges and the 1x4 wedges, you're going to be getting less buoyancy, but you're also going to get more drag off of those blocks. So if you want something that's not going to have too much drag, you're going to want to lean towards using some 1x1 wedges. So what I like to do is, so I've had my square here. This is going to be the footprint of the ship. Next thing I'm going to do is I'll put a block here, and I'll start shaping the bow, and the bow being the front of the ship. So I'm just going to go ahead and we'll use some 1x1s here, and we'll go, let's say, 3. Let's go 4, actually. We'll do 3. I don't want it to be too stout. And then we'll take a 1x2, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 1x2s, and then we'll take a 1x4 wedge, and we will finish it off like so. So that's a nice bow shape for a boat this size. Now, these smaller boats, we tend to have pretty square backs on them. They're not overly sculpted. So I'm going to square out the back, and then I'm just going to probably cut out one block like so. On smaller boats, ships, you tend to have pretty square backs on them. And so now what I'm going to do is we have the general shape of the hull, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete out all of the flat part there. And then we can delete out the fill-ins here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'll drag. And now we have the deck of our hull. So this is what we would step on. All right. So next thing we're going to do is we want to work on the bow. Now, one thing we have to worry about is the draft. The draft is how much of the boat is in the water. All right. So think about the height of the boat into the water. All right, now one thing is you get in the editor here and you think everything is large and huge and you think your ship is coming up huge. Then you jump in game and you realize, oh my God, that's pretty small. So one thing that's kind of a good thing you can do is if you come in here and you drag down 7, that is the height of your character. So on this particular boat, we don't have the need for us to go down there and walk around. And it's actually going to be quite challenging to do that because, we're going to be making the boat too fat in the small base, but that is the height of a character. So keep that in mind. So I want to make the draft, oh, I don't know, probably at max 7, but probably not even that. So let's go ahead and we'll grab a wedge and we'll start dragging down. So we're going to do a 1 by 1 wedge and we're going to drag straight down and we're just going to go to there. All right. And let's drag across. All right, so that's going to be kind of the shape. I think that's proportionally pretty good. So that's 7 right there. And that's going to allow us to get in there if we want. We don't necessarily have to go in there, but since I'm going to be leaving this to you guys, if you how you want to use it, that gives you the freedom for that. Next thing, we'll grab a pyramid here, and we'll just match these up. So I often see people have struggles when they're first starting out of how to know what block to add to put in next. So if you look, you have a 1 by 1. So you're looking for the 1 by 1 pyramid. So it's best to just kind of count it off, and then you can drag like that. So what I actually like to do is start back here. So we have a 1 right here, and we have a 4 here. So if we have a 1 and a 4, we need a 1 by 4 pyramid. So let's go to pyramid, and we'll grab a 1 by 4 pyramid, and I'll show you why I like to drag it from the back here. What we can do is we drag past it like this, delete, then we need a 2 by 1 pyramid. So 2 by 1 pyramid, and we'll drag that till we have 1 overhang, delete that. Now we have a 1 by 1, so we need a 1 by 1 pyramid, and we'll drag that forward. So that kind of gives us the basis of how we're going to start here. All right, and next we'll go ahead and we'll start doing the next one. You can also drag down. I tend to like to drag forward because I sometimes will change the shape of the hull as I go down. So there we go, drag that. And then what you can do is you can just control click the one above it, and then you don't have to search for the pieces anymore. Control click, and we'll go like that. So we'll just continually drag these along until we get them, till we get it at its terminus where we're at the bottom of the ship. All right, now we're gonna have to make some changes down here. All right, so as you can see here, we're starting to have to change the shape of our bow here. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna grab a 1 by 4, and we'll continue along here, and we'll find that we need to change the shaping here. And so we can do one of two things. One, we can continue like this. I'll do it 2 ways, and I'll show you why I don't drag down. So we could continue the way we were going. We could go like this. But eventually we're going to get up here where they don't match anymore. So they don't match anymore here. So we could do one of two things. We'd go like this, and we'd switch to these 2s like so, and then that would go all the way down. So this is an option. So let's just finish this off here. All right, so that's an option there, and what we can do is we can go like this. And what we do here is, as you see, this Y drag from the back, as you see, it's easy to screw up that way. This is why I drag from the back, is it makes it easy to be able to, if I can ever rotate it right, just go forward or down like so. And then that tells us right here we need to switch this to a 1 by 4. All right, so that's one of the options we could do. The other option is this. When we have to switch to the 1 by 4 here, we could actually switch this up like so. And this is actually, I think, going to be my preferred way because this is a smaller boat. We don't want it oversized. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to switch to 2 by 2s. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll go pyramid, and we'll pick a 2 by 4 pyramid here. And we'll drag that forward 1, we'll delete. And this is going to actually sculpt the boat back in a little bit. As you can see, it gives us a little overhang. These smaller type of boats, this is more what you tend to see IRL. A little bit more sculpting in the hull. Because this is only a 30-foot long boat. And now, as you can see, when we switch to the 2 by 2s, these are now 1 by 1s. So we're back to 1 by 1s. And this is going to help with our small boat with stability and drag and buoyancy. So I'm going to drag that, delete, and we'll just finish this up, and we're there. So actually, right about here, I don't want to end this too sharply, so we're going to actually go back to 1 bys here. because we only have one more level to go down. So let's go like this. And we will grab up here. And so this gives it a little bit more shapeliness. This gives it, I think, a better look. And it also will give you some better buoyancy performance and less drag, having most of these being these 1x2s. Because we're never going to a 1x4 at the bottom there. All right, nice. So as you can see there, that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and I'm just gonna, I like to place mine in here. I like to just tap them off instead of drag. And the reason I do that is I don't want double blocks. I'm likely not gonna make it where a person goes down into the hull. And so if I dragged it, I'd have to come in here and delete the blocks out. So just by tapping them off. So that's a pretty good looking bow on there. It's gonna have pretty good drag on it. So let's go ahead and we'll delete that out. That was just giving us space. Now we need to finish the side here. And so what we're going to do here is go up here and we're going to grab the inverse piece of the pyramid. And we're going to drag this down to this point here. We actually drag it back a little. We'll drag it down here. All right, drag it down, and then we're going to have to delete a bunch because they don't like dragging very well. So then we want to go in, we're going to reach in, and we're going to grab the inverse on this side. Actually, we can do it by the pyramid as well. And we'll just drag forward. Dragging forward works best. Dragging down, sometimes you can't grab on anything. If you drag forward, you can often get it a little bit better. And then we'll grab the one in front of it. And we'll drag forward there. And we'll drag forward there. All right, nice. That's starting to shape out nicely. All right. And so we want to continue down. We want to try to get this line down a little bit on this boat. We want to try to have some more square sides. So we have to go down to this one. Grab the inverse. Actually, we grab the pyramid again. We can do it either way. You just have to drag either up or down. Just trying to keep it consistent. Now we'll grab this pyramid here. And 2 drags forward. All right, and now actually, when I eventually get this flattened out here, we'll go ahead and we'll switch to 1x1 wedges there. And we can go ahead and fill this in. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the square of the side down a little bit longer. So what we can do is we're going to go to the next one here, and then we'll be getting towards where we want to be. All right, so that one goes in. We can go ahead and fill that in with some square block. Grab the inverse, grab the pyramid here rather. And place that one there. And then now we're starting to get the point where we're eventually going to be able to swap out for some wedges here on the side. This is not a very long boat, so we can't go too far back with this. All right, good. So there we go. We're starting to have the hull is shaping up nicely. So from here, we're going to go ahead and put in some 1x1 wedges there. We'll put in our last inverse here. Let's see. This is going to be 1x2s here. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and put some squares there. Now, a lot of these boats have what's known as a transom. A transom is the area that sticks over the propellers. And so you're going to want to have your propellers and your rudders in the back there. And so it's good to have a transom on there. And so we're going to go ahead and next thing we'll do is build the transom. So go ahead and we'll bring the square part up like so. And we'll start to bring down some of these. We can sculpt this a little bit more later if we want, but we're going to go ahead and just place it like that. And so the transom is going to be an area where the propellers can fit underneath. With a boat this size, likely what you're going to want is you're going to want 1x3 propellers. They're the small propellers. Those are going to be ideally what you're going to want in a boat this size. So the transom, again, is a flat area here. So we're going to go ahead and let's go about, that's 4 blocks in there. And then we're going to start dragging up the back of the stern here. Now, if we do 1x1s, you can see that's a little sharp. So let's go to 1x2s. I'm actually going to cut this a little bit here. Let's cut this, and we'll see how fast it comes up. So let's go ahead and grab a 1x2 wedge here, or pyramid rather. And we'll drag that up, All right, now you see these here. These are going to be wrong. So what we want to do here is we want to go to a 2x2. Again, we have to count there. 2 by whatever we're going by, 2 right here, 2 by 2. So we need to go in with a 2 by 2 pyramid. Eventually I'll get it. There we go. And these will get dragged in like so. The fuck? All right, so now we want to get this transom going. So let's try 1 by 4, see if this will work for us here. And we'll drag that up. That's probably going to be too long, so we want to switch it off about here. So let's grab a 1 by 2 pyramid here. This will steepen it up a little bit. All right, and let's go ahead and start filling these in. So it's a 1 by 4. All right, then here it needs to be a 2 by 4. Again, just counting them out. And so we need to start with the pyramid there. So we have a pyramid here. All right. And right about here, let's see, let's switch these out here for 1 by 1s like that. All right. And so let's go ahead and we'll fill these in. And we'll see how our transom shapes up. And then we need the 1 by 2 wedges here. I think I'm actually going to change it just a hair. Yep, let's change this here. I want to make sure I have plenty of room for my propellers and my rudders. So I'm actually going to go up a little bit faster there. All right, this one's going to get deleted here. And let's grab the 2 by. So put a 2 by in there. And then we can go put another 2 by right in here, and then we're good. There we go. So that gives us the kind of the tub of the boat there. And one thing we can do here to kind of make this a little bit more shapely is we'll grab a 1 by 4 pyramid here. And then we'll switch over to wedges here. All right. And we can go ahead and make this more shapely back here. We'll add in some 1 by pyramids there. I'll put in some wedges there. So there is the shape of our small boat hull. We have transom on there. And in here we can just cover this area up so that we don't leak water. Gonna need a 1 by 2 here. And you can fill it with square block. You can fill it with whatever you like. I'm just filling it with, you can even, here, let's just fill it with square block. We're not coming down here. If we wanted to make this look a little bit better, we could do that, but we'll just fill it in with some square block there. And there we go. We have kind of the basis of the hull. Next thing I'm going to do is add some rudders and some propellers in here. That's going to get us set up. So by putting them pretty low, it's going to help us with stability. So we either want to go down here or probably about here. And so we'll add props. So here are my small props. And just get them turned out right there. There we go. So there are my small propellers. And then we're going to put some rudders in. And I'm going to turn off symmetry for this, or else one of them will turn the wrong direction. And that one goes there, and then this one goes here. And then what I like to do is I grab the selection grid, I grab them both, cut them, and push them up into the hull, paste them, and merge them. And now we have 2 rudders. So we have the hull, the propellers, and the rudders. All right, good. So that is the basic laying of the hull. So let's go ahead, and it's always good to test this. So go to world view, and don't let it plop in the water. Let it sit in the water, or else it's going to bounce and take a while to stabilize. This way we can just check it right away. So as you can see, it is floating pretty well. The nose is down, the bow is down. That is fine. We should expect that. Back here is where the engines are going to sit. So as they sit back there, you see just with my body weight, that has fixed that little imbalance. That's perfectly fine. That's to be expected. So we'll go ahead and bring this back. So that's looking pretty good. So let's take off world view. All right, so we can do a couple things with the rail. The rail is the area that blocks the water from coming over the deck. It also keeps you from falling overboard. Now, I tend to like to have a sculpted rail, but if you wanted, for example, you could put a more square rail on here. We'll do a quick square rail. You can see how that looks. And then if you prefer a sculpted rail, you can do that. So they tend to be, in most of these boats, they tend to have a higher rail in the front, and that's so that it keeps the water from coming over and flooding the boat or the ship as it hits waves. In the back, it can be a lower rail because you don't need that. So what I tend to do is, in the front here, as you can see, that's about 4 blocks. And then as we get towards the back here, what I'll do is I'll grab often a 1x4 wedge. And you'll see this if you look up pictures of real boats. And you can go down to a 3 here if you want, or a 2 even. We'll go down to a 3. And so this is what a square rail is going to look like. So let's go ahead and place that in the water. We'll kind of feel it with our player character. Again, it's hard to tell in the editor. So see, good rail here. We're not going to fall overboard. We have a little bit extra rail on the bow. So this is what a square rail looks like. So if you like a square rail, you can stick with the square rail. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do a more of an angled rail, 2x4 here. And this will give us a little bit of a better sculpt here. Kind of hard to get it to grab on there. There we go. All right, and we're going to go ahead and we'll switch to these. Should have one down here, a 2x2. And this is going to be a little bit better sculpted, I think. And we'll drag this forward. Now, I think this is a little bit better here. Yep, that comes up and is a little bit less harsh than the first one. And we'll go ahead and grab the inverse on this one. Grab these 1x2s here. And they're going to be tough to drag here. There we go. 1x2 wedge. All right, and so I'm digging on that shaping a little bit better. And about there, maybe. Put a wedge on there. Nice. So I'm liking the shape of that a little bit better. All right, and now we can decide what we want to do in here. So you can do it a couple ways. There's different ways that you have in a boat this size. One, you can completely block it off like this, and this will be an area for, say, anchor locker, where you put your anchor chain. This could be a place where you just are using buoyancy. You could delete out this floor, give you even more buoyancy in your bow. If you're having problems with floating your bow, you could do that. So that's an option. The other one that I tend to do is I tend to sculpt it. So I just kind of grab... Let's go grab some, we'll do pyramid, we'll do inverse pyramid here. All right, and then we're going to go in here, we're going to do these inverses, inverse 1x1s there. And then we'll grab a 1x1 wedge there. And then these here are 2s, so we can actually add one more here like so. And then these are 2s, as you can see, 2x2, so we need 2x2 pyramids. So right there, 2x2 pyramid. And we'll go to that one. And then we need to change to 1x2 pyramids here. So a lot of this is how you want it to look. You know, so you can square it off. You can have it a little bit more angled like this. But I'm thinking this looks pretty good here for a boat this size, as you can see. So let's go ahead and do a float test again. All right, so as you can see, the bow is down, the stern is up. Again, perfectly normal because you're going to want to be able to start adding things in like engines. Next thing I like to do when I'm building a hull is I start to put in some weight ballast. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some weight blocks. And in order to have stability in a craft IRL and in game, you want the center of gravity below the water line. So one thing we can do is we can establish our water line. So right about here is where I want my water line. So right there probably. And one of the things you want is if we punch a hole in the side here, if we look where our deck is, this is where we stand. In game, the water will wash over that. We do not want the water to get on the deck or else it's going to look like our boat's flooded all the time. So if this is our deck, we want the water line to be at least 1 or ideally 2 blocks below the water line. So let's go ahead and paint that water line. And so I like to paint it. You'll often see this on real boats, IRL, that they're painted at their water line. And this is generally where the boat should be floating. And so this just gives us kind of a mark of reference of where we should be floating. So if we go and we look at it, we can see the stern is too high and the bow is too low, as we kind of expected. And so then we need to decide where the engines are going to go. So likely the engines are going to go here. So what I like to do is I put in a bunch of weight blocks. And let's see where we can cut out here. So I'm going to cut out and I'll put some weight blocks in the belly, in the very bottom of the ship. And the reason is this. As you add weight into the ship, you can delete those weight blocks. A lot of people don't do this. They don't pre-weight their vehicles and the issue, or their boats, and the issue is this: once you start adding that stuff, for example, this might be floating perfectly for you, then you start adding things like engines, you start adding things like, you know, a little bridge, pilot house, and then you find out that your boat gets lower and lower in the water and then it's not floating correctly. And so by adding these weight blocks, what we can do is we'll do a quick measure. As you can see, every time I add the weight blocks, it is dragging that center of gravity down. So let's go ahead and I'll back up a couple here until we get to where they're all not weight blocks. Let's look at the weight. 1497. Then we'll redo until we get them. We're at 2171. So that tells us how much weight we can add in there to get this balance. Let's go ahead and spawn it and see how it's floating. All right, so it's floating a little bit better there. We still have we have a stern imbalance. And so what we want to do is we want to add some weight blocks in here telling us how much weight we need to add to the stern. Now I can't cut in there, those are 1x4s. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a little bit of weight to simulate some engines. As you add these engines in, you're going to notice that your boat will balance a little bit better. So as you can see there, we are pretty good. We're about only 1 block below the water line. We're still a little bit, you know, bow heavy. So what we can do is we can come in here and balance it. So I like to balance my boat out before I start putting engines in, because that's going to tell you if it's even going to be possible to get it to balance how you want. And it should be. So here we go. So the line is right on the water line. Let's go ahead and we'll just no clip around, as you can see. So sitting very even now. So this boat is now balanced. So this is about the point where I'll leave you guys. So this boat is balanced. So what you would do next is, let's say, for example, you're ready to take this hull and build. These weight blocks are not meant to stay in there. You can leave some. Most of my builds, they have weight blocks in there. But for example, let's say you grab some engines and you look, and these mediums, what do they weigh? 80 a piece. So let's go ahead and let's just stick these engines in here. So let's say these were going to be your engines here. So that now just added 160 mass to it. And as you can see, that's helping. And let's say you wanted to balance those out. You come in here to the bow and you say, okay, it's now a little bit bow heavy. You come in, you delete out some weight, and you trade them out with regular blocks. And that's how it works. And you want to take out the weight as you add more stuff on top. So as we add a little pilot bridge here, as we add some supplies, that's all adding weight to your craft. And as you add weight on top, you can start to lead it on the bottom. Now you need to be careful. If you look at the side here, you want your center of gravity, this pink square, to be as close to center as possible. That's going to give you good stability. And you also want it to be below the water line. And it's because it works like a pendulum. If you think of a pendulum, right, the if you have a long arm and you put a weight on the end of it, that's going to stay towards the bottom, right? If it swings up, it's going to want to swing back down. So the lower you get this weight, the more pendulum action you're going to get, and the more likely it's going to keep this craft stable. All right, so I'm just going to pull. Oops, I didn't mean to delete all that. All right, so we'll pull out the engines here. And so this hull is pretty much ready. And you guys can use this at your own leisure. I just ask that if you do use it for one of your craft that you post in the workshop, you just say that you use one of Captain's hulls. So thank you for watching. I'll keep putting these out. Quick little hull tutorial, and then you guys can use them on the workshop. So I've seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of new players who were struggling with hull design. This way, you can kind of have one, you can play with that, you can learn some of the techniques, and then you guys can build your own. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.